In 1932, Japan and China, as well as Great Britain and France, signed a peace treaty.
The Australian military started a Great Emu War in Western Australia. The emus won.
A house in Sydney costed an average of £1,623.
In 1932, Granny was born! Yay!
This is a podcast all about Granny Jan, who also goes by Mum, Granny, Jan, and Jeanette Mosley. This episode is about what it is like to be a grandmother. This episode is a little different from the first two, as we grandchildren will do most of the talking.
Good afternoon, Luke.
Hello, Granny. How you going?
Oh, I'm going all right.
Granny, I've been tasked with the very difficult topic of speaking about all your grandchildren. I'm tallying the grandchild count at 10.
Correct.
I'm not sure if I got the maths right, but I'm thinking the age range must be close to 30 years between the eldest and youngest grandchild.
Oh, now Ben and Lily turn 13 this year, so you can do the maths.
Kate's just turned 40, so...
27 years, there you are.
Okay, let's start with what Kate, Scott, and Luke got up to.
My other memory of Granny is her generosity, and she always minded our children every holidays, and they just had a ball, even though now I'm hearing stories about what they really did. And I thought they were perfect.
I wanted to talk about how much fun we used to have when we were kids at Granny's house. We used to go every holidays for several days at a time, and now looking back, I think that was amazing that she had us for so long. And in all that time, I only remember one time that we pushed her too far to get angry at us, and we were so shocked and upset that Granny would get angry at us at all that we spent all morning making a kids' cafe. But the best bit of all is that Granny was so gracious. All I remember cooking at the kids' cafe is cutting up a raw tomato. And Granny sat there and ate it all without any complaints or hints that it was actually disgusting. It was such a fun grounding to our childhood. We played games every night, and Granny really laid the foundation for Scott and Luke and I in playing games. But I wish we had have learnt a little bit more from her about grace in winning or losing.
I think we'd do it at Granny's house, we'd play cards, we'd play lots of Uno. Luke, I think, must have won his first game when he was 8. There was no easy wins at Uno at Granny's house. He didn't get anything for free. So when Luke eventually did win his first game, he was very, very excited and ran around the table like a crazy person. We played Hare and the Tortoise with Chris Deacon when he was there, and that was a fun game. We played Scrabble once, and me and Granny were a team, and we'd been having crumpets during the week. So our team name was the Crispy Bottoms because everyone wanted to always have a crispy bottom on their crumpet. Papa would always stay up late and then sleep in the morning, and sometimes when we wanted to do things, we'd have to wake him up. And this one time, we decided we'd use an egg timer and use that to wake him up. The egg timer had to gradually get closer to Papa because it'd go off and it wouldn't wake him up. So the egg timer eventually, I think, was right next to his ear. And so me, Kate and Luke were at the end of the bed waiting for the egg timer to go off. And Kate and Luke had the good sense to duck when it did go off. So when the timer did go off, Papa woke up and then was looking straight at me because I was a bit slower than the others. All the kind of fun tricks that we'd play, and obviously Granny let us do it. It's really fun as a kid to be able to have that kind of fun with your grandparents.
The picture that I had of Granny as a child was of a fun, loving and caring grandmother. I was always excited to visit. Granny's driveway was an ideal handball stadium, and the tree down the back was always a mildly petrifying adventure. I remember feeling important. Granny has a way of speaking to people that makes them feel valuable, and that extends to children.
I've been very lucky that you three were close to me, location-wise, so I could really get to know and enjoy.
And there are always lots of adventures.
This memory was about the day we lost Papa at the zoo. Where was he? We waited for ages at the ferry terminal and he never turned up. And then all of a sudden you said, "Well, Lynn, we're going home." And we went home. And we no sooner got home And there the key went in the front door, and it was Papa, and he'd found his way home. But you weren't worried. You knew that he would make his way home.
Went out with Granny a fair bit with Dad and Mum. Good to go for a walk down to the river with them. There's a little cafe there and heaps of chocolates and sweets. And I think that was my favourite was a fudge, chocolate fudge, caramel. Oh, the aquarium was the best part. Yeah, the underground aquarium part, the shark tanks with Granny and Papa. Shadow would come over you and go, what's that? Oh, the back sheds. I'd always find something new in the back shed. If Papa would let me in the garage, I'd have a rummage around in there. I think the highlight was finding Brian's old skateboard.
When a couple of family members would turn up and we'd all go out underneath the frangipani tree, you spent the time with us and you gave time for us to talk and relax and just enjoy the moment. There's always a couple of kids running around and all of a sudden the Matchbox car track would come out and we'd all set it up and take turns in running the Matchbox car down the track and plop it into the bucket at the end.
Well, this is it. It's always handy to have something for kids to play with instead of saying, oh, don't touch that, leave that alone. Yes, these are the toys, go for it. And they can usually find something that they're interested in.
With the frangipani tree, sometimes we collected the flowers, put them in water and then made some perfume, and then Granny would wear the perfume, and we thought that was fantastic.
Jan was an absolute lifesaver when Stuart was young. Anne and I used to work 3 days a week each, so that means there was one day where we would overlap, both of us working. And we used to head down on Tuesday night to Jan's and stay overnight. Then Anne and I would get up early in the morning and head off to work, and Stuart would spend the day with Jan. They both loved it. It was a great time. Then we'd get home and Jan would have also prepared dinner, and it was just brilliant. We had a great time, and Stuart really remembers those times fondly.
Catching buses with Granny. My favourite seat was at the back of the bus, and that's because it vibrated the most, and I used to love putting my ear against the window and just feeling the vibration through my head. I learnt what the red button did. It just told the bus driver you wanted to get off at the next stop. It was in primary school, I'm pretty sure it was, that I went on a bus trip with all my mates from school, and they were all raving about how it was an emergency stop button and you're not allowed to press it. You're not allowed to press it at all. But I was trying to convince them that no, actually the button was just to tell them to slow down for the next stop, and they would not believe me. I remember that Granny's favourite drink was a mango lassi from Broadway just after seeing the movies. The milk box. I'd never seen a milk box before in my life, and I don't think I ever will again because they're not very new. But it used to be my favourite place to hide little knickknacks, and every time after the lawnmower came, I used to collect all the bits of whippersnipper cable that was all over the grass, and I'd collect them all and put them all into the little milk box.
She's really put in with us and came down just after we had our kids. We're first-time parents without a clue. Wasn't it? So fantastic having her knowledge and just calm presence in the house, wasn't it, Luce?
It sure was. It sure was, with those screaming little things.
Especially with Ben. Thank you, Ben, for screaming for all those years. We were lucky enough to share a really special time a couple of years ago down at Apollo Bay on a holiday with Mum, aka Granny Jan, Anne and Bob, and Stewie, and Chris and Bianca met up with us down there as well, which was fantastic. Yeah, that's really special times.
And a special view.
Very special view.
Probably one of my favourite views and my very happy place to go back to with Jan in my brain. So beautiful view when we watched you surf.
Yeah, that was fantastic, having a view over the ocean and sitting in luxury in our luxury cabins.
Jan and me trying to get up that big hill, that was quite amusing, that slippery hill.
big, steep, slippery grass hill, yeah.
Oh, we did it, no problem, we did it.
Quite an achievement, I might say.
It was. Great memories.
My favourite memory with Granny Jan is when we were at Apollo Bay and we went to the beach. It was really windy and we decided to make a sandcastle with sand and shells. It was lots of fun, despite the cold.
I've got another memory with Granny Jan from you guys when we took you two to Shelley Beach, Granny's Beach.
Yes.
Yes. You guys actually had a trip in the car with Auntie Anne, and we all met up out at Cronulla.
I remember we sat on a bench and there was grass underneath the bench, and I remember feeling the grass.
I remember swimming in Granny's pool
and then getting absolutely freezing, and then Granny Jan giving me a big hug.
Yeah.
In towels. 3 layers of towels.
So happy seeing you guys down at a place where I learnt to swim. That's fantastic. Very good memories.
My favourite memory with Granny Jan is when she, Auntie Anne and Uncle Bob picked us up from netball training and we had dinner at the Hilltop Hotel. When Granny Jan spotted the stuffed deer on the wall, she was so excited when me and Lily were explaining about how her friend's brother shot the deer.
When I lived at Granny's place as a young adult, my picture of her as a person began to fill out. Granny's not one to complain, but as I heard more and more stories about her past, I realised life had not always been an easy ride. What I was most taken back by was Granny's sense of calm. It was infectious and relaxing. I was having some classic young adult problems, but speaking with Granny always made me feel as if everything would be okay. I used to laugh when Granny would say, "No news is good news," when having not heard from me or someone else in a while. The more I think about it, the more the sense of calm has created and nurtured an incredible family bond between us all. Granny is the softly spoken backbone of our family, a strong matriarch with a quick wit and a big heart. I'm grateful to know Granny in such an intimate way. I still can't believe you're Nani when I talk to you. You're more like a funny, loving and wise friend.
For me, what's even more special is the little things. It's the time I spent living with you in Earlwood when I moved to Sydney after uni. That was such a special time for me to come home and to talk about our days and all the little things, you know, enjoying Thai from the Earlwood shop, watching TV together with a glass of wine. It was just such a lovely time, and I really admire your independence. I loved hearing about your adventures, you know, catching the bus into the city, to learning new things, doing iPad courses, your square dancing. It was just so nice to be able to get to know you in that way. Whenever I watch Bargain Hunt on TV, I have a bit of a giggle at the end when they do that stupid kick. I know how much you find this irritating, and I just have to laugh whenever I see it. It reminds me of you.
I inherited the name Granny from my mum. She was Granny Nurcombe, and I inherited Granny and became that to everybody and really enjoyed it. It put me in another age bracket. I've got lovely photos when there's 4 generations in the photo. The one I'm looking at has got Granny Nurcombe, myself, Anne and Kate. When you look at them and think 4 generations, it's lovely, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I love looking at the photo on my 80th birthday. Remember, we had a family gathering up at Penrith on the river. When you see the amount of people there, and I'm sorry Albert's not in it. He's missed out on such a lot. I thought, what a wonderful family. Just look at them, all smiles and happy. It's lovely.
Speaking of birthdays.
Hey Grandma, happy birthday, I love you.
And I do consider myself lucky, Luke, that I grew up in a stable family.
Yeah.
And I knew quite a lot of my relatives. Mum used to keep in touch with her sisters and brothers to a lesser extent, and so this is why I still keep in touch with Cousin Joan.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel I've been lucky to have nice children that have made good choices in partners and then produced all these grandchildren for me. It's a lovely feeling, and here to enjoy it. Wonderful.
Thanks so much for listening. In the next episode, you'll hear about what it's like to be a great-grandmother.